Life is hard, isn't it? It's hard to get what you have to do done, right? Well, there's a good expression in English that we use. It's powerful, and it's you do what you got to do. That's a good expression to learn. It's a good expression to use, and that's the expression we're going to focus on today. You do what you got to do. I'm going to tell you certain struggles I'm going through right now, and tips that I use and things that I use to keep a positive mind and a positive attitude to keep moving forward. In this episode 8, because it's not just English, it's more than English. Let's go. Hey there, guys, and welcome to another More Than English podcast. I am your host and teacher, Jesse, helping you to get to the next level in your English and in life. So welcome to another podcast, and today I just want to talk about one expression that is very useful. You've probably already heard it. You may have a version of it in your language, but it's a good life motto to go by, and it's a good philosophy in life. And that is, you do what you got to do. Again, you do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. What does that mean? Well, basically, it means to do whatever's in front of you to fulfill the necessary tasks or to accomplish what you need to accomplish to perform a task, to do a job, to be a better family guy or a better father or mother or sister or brother or boyfriend or girlfriend or son or daughter or employee or employer, just to be a better person, right? So first, let me give you some context behind this expression, and then I'll give you an example, a personal example and a personal story from this week, right? So the context, we normally say this if there has been some process, like we're working a lot or we're really tired and we have to keep pushing, or you do something that's kind of unpleasant, but you have to do it to get paid, or you have to do it because it's your responsibility. And that's when we say, well, I don't really like it, but you do what you got to do. You do what you got to do, right? So let me share a personal story and from this week. Of course, there are many areas that this applies in my life, even with starting this podcast, running Sweet Academy, starting that up, having a startup. I mean, there are at the beginning stages of this process of starting a company, of having an idea and taking it from nothing to creating something, right? That's a big process, and it takes a lot of work. And right now, there is little payback, right? There's little reward at this stage, financially speaking, right? I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about design. I'm learning a lot about business. I'm learning a lot about teaching. I'm just learning a lot about life. Monetarily, there's not quite the payoff that I was hoping for at this point. But like I always say, keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. That's all we have to do, right? One step, one foot in front of the other. Whether you're in a tough spot, whether you're in a feeling the pressure of life getting to you and you just want to give up, right? I've been there. I'm there sometimes even now. And I'll be there in the future, just like you. And we need to just keep one foot in front of the other. Sometimes they're big steps, sometimes they're little steps, but keep moving forward. That's the only direction we can go, right? That's the only direction life moves in. And if we're not moving forward, then we're falling behind. So keep moving forward. But on to my story. So this week this entire month, it's been raining like crazy here in southern Spain. It's been raining like crazy, and it's very unusual for this area, for this region. It's just unusual to get so much rain. We needed it. Keep that in mind. We needed it because we were having a drought before this. But, I mean, enough's enough already, right? But anyway, it's raining. And, I don't have a car here. So I get around most places by bicycle, which is great because it's normally sunny and beautiful weather. But I get around on bicycle or, sometimes buses or something. But I try not to. I try to get out on the bike. That makes it a little more complicated in the rain, right? Because it's rainy, there's been a lot of wind and rain, cold weather. It's just disastrous and nasty. But you got to do what you got to do, right? That's where this expression comes in. You got to do what you got to do. I don't have to go on bicycle. I could research bus routes to get to certain places, certain houses, because I go places and teach lessons, right? So I could research how to get there by bus and then go to the bus route, sometimes connect. It's just a real headache to go by bus, and then you're waiting. Sometimes it's just easier to fight through the rain, right? So, but it's the lesser of two evils at that point, isn't it? It's the lesser of two evils. You either walk out in the rain and the wind and wait for a bus and, get near your destination, or fight through the rain and the wind on the bike and get to your destination. So I chose the latter normally. So, but anyway, I've been going by bike, and whenever I'm out on my bike in the rain, I just think about the future, right? What do you do when you're going through a difficult time and a difficult situation? I think about the future, and I think about the future me, whatever, 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, whatever. The future me that's successful, that's reached the next step of the goal, the next stage. Thinking of that Jesse, looking back and remembering my situation now. That's one thing that really helps me get through difficult times, whether it's financial or health or relational, whatever. That's one thing that really gets me through, is thinking about future Jesse and how he will be remembering this situation. And the more I struggle now, I'm hoping that it will be more successful and I'll feel better about this in the future when I'm out of this stage, right? So I'm fighting through the rain, fighting through the wind, on the bicycle, usually with an umbrella too, to try to stop some of the rain so I'm not arriving at my student's place or business or school drenched. So I try to block the rain as much as possible. And I just think you got to do what you got to do. That's what I thought of, and that's why I'm making this podcast, because that's what I thought about. You got to do what you got to do. I have a family that needs to eat, and I need to eat, and we need to pay rent. We need all of these responsibilities that you know about because you have these same responsibilities. And I'm just saying this to say to you, you got to do what you got to do. Keep moving forward. And that's just it. And I understand, and I know there are many different people who listen to this from many different situations and in many different countries, many different areas in the world. And another thing that gets me through is thinking about you guys. That, some of you are in some situations that you might hear me talking about cycling in the rain, and that's my struggle, that's my wrestle, that's my fight right now. That's one of them. But at the moment, that's what I'm talking about. And you might be thinking, seriously? Jesse, that's not a big deal. I know this isn't a big deal compared to what some of you have to deal with, right? It's like the old proverb goes, I was once sad when I had no shoes until I met the man who had no feet. Let that sink in a little bit. And there's always someone who would look at your situation and wish that they were in your situation, right? And that's something that gets me through, because I know many of you are in countries that are not easy places to live in, right? Let's be honest. Some of you are in countries that for weather reasons or government reasons or religion reasons or cultural reasons or financial and economic reasons or your personal family life or your school life. It's a struggle, right? That's what life is. Life is a fight. And you can either fight with it or just not fight and, just deal with it. Now, when I say that life is a fight, please don't misunderstand me. And don't think that I'm being negative. And that's not a negative statement. When I say life is a fight, we're fighting in life. That's not a negative statement. That's not me being negative. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Because when I think of the word fight, I think of the word fight for life, right? If you've seen nature documentaries, all of nature is a struggle and a fight. And it's the fight for survival. It's the fight for life. Right? And it's a beautiful thing. One of my favorite sport is mixed martial arts, MMA, and I've been involved in different martial arts. I've said this before, for practically my entire life, and I enjoy the struggle. I enjoy the fight, because the harder the struggle is, and this goes back to what I was saying before, I picture the future Jesse, because the harder the struggle is, the harder the fight is now, the better the success will feel in the future. Am I right? I mean, think back about some struggles that you've dealt with, that you've come through already, right? That you've already been through and you were at the end and you've seen the success, whether it's a big exam or getting into a certain school or, a relationship thing or saving up for a new whatever. That struggle, that wrestle process, that fight process, it was difficult. It was hard. It was tiring and heartbreaking at times. But the harder the fight was, the better the success felt. Isn't that true? And I just want to thank you. I want to take a minute and thank you. And please understand me. Please hear me. And please know that this is coming from my heart. That I understand that many of you are going through more difficult things than I have ever gone through. And I want to thank you for being the encouragement to me, for being my encouragement, because you are pushing through. You are moving forward in your difficult situation right now. And you're continuing to study. You're listening to an English podcast. You're watching English videos. You're taking my live lessons. You're taking your time to study English, to pass an exam or to get a visa or to get into another country or to make a better life for yourself or your family or both. And it's a struggle and it's a fight. And I thank you for going through that. I thank you for being my encouragement to push me through, because I know that there are situations much worse than mine that you're pushing through. So I want to encourage you. I want to return the favor and encourage you to keep moving forward, right? Maybe stop for a second if you have to, regroup, but ultimately keep moving forward. Don't give up on your dreams. You may have to adjust them sometimes, and we may need to work with them, right? Our timing may not always be perfect, but keep moving forward and continue to be my encouragement in this. And that's all I have for you today. You got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. And use that expression, right? When somebody says, wow, you're studying again until so late. It's so late. Go to bed. Or come on out. No, I have to study. Really? Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. Right? Okay. So use this expression today. If you would like to study with me and have one-on-one classes, then sign up at sweetacademy.com, click on services, and click on one-on-one classes. sweetacademy.com, check it out. Now, I said some useful expressions in this podcast. Aside from you got to do what you got to do, I've kind of explained that, but I said some very useful, very natural expressions. Let's take a look at those expressions and what they mean right now. Okay, guys, so I hope you got some inspiration or some tips or some ideas. I hope you got something from that episode anyway. I was wearing my heart on my sleeve. I was sharing with you what was inside my heart and my mind. So take what you want from that. But now let's take a look at 14 different expressions, words, fluency builders, phrasal verbs, different things and different ways that I used English that will help you as you're trying to get to the next level in your fluency. So the first one, obviously, you do what you got to do. You do what you got to do. And I spent the whole show explaining that. I'm not going to talk about the definition here. But the pronunciation, you do. You do. What you. You see how the you kind of sounds like you. You. You do what you gotta do. You do what you gotta do. You see the rhythm. You do what you gotta do. You do what you gotta do. You do what you gotta do. You see how that works? Okay, next. I said, let me share a personal story. And what you can say when you say, let me do something, you're kind of asking permission, but it's not really asking permission. It's just introducing that you're going to do or say something. And it's kind of polite sounding. So let me share a personal story. Let me verb. Let me tell you something. Let me go inside real quick and get my jacket. Let me. Next, I talked about a payoff, and I said pay back. I kind of used the wrong word in the episode. It's not really payback, it's payoff. Payback is something different. It's when you lend somebody money and they pay you back. This is payoff, and it's the return on your investment, the benefit you receive from doing something. And I said, right now, there's little payoff in what I'm doing and all my hard work, but I'm hoping for a big payoff in the future. And payoff can be a noun or a verb. Payoff. Next, don't give up. Simple, the phrasal verb is give up, but don't give up. Don't stop what you're doing. Don't stop. Keep going. Next, I kind of, again, went off onto a tangent in a different direction. But I wanted to bring you back to my story. So I said, but onto my story, right? I wanted to continue. But onto my story. But onto my song. But onto the show. But onto something. Next, I said nasty about the rain and when it's raining a lot and it's outside and dirty and wet. It's nasty. Nasty is a synonym for disgusting or, not nice. Nasty. Next, a headache. Something is a headache, and that's an adjective. It's a headache to do something. It means it's difficult or complicated or you don't want to do it. Something is a headache to do. It's a headache to do your taxes every year. It's a headache. It's complicated and you don't like to do it, right? It's a headache to go somewhere in heavy traffic. It's a headache. And a headache here is used as an adjective. Next, an expression we use, something is the lesser of two evils. This is when there are two bad options, but one option is less bad than the other one. You probably heard this expression before during the United States presidential campaign. And people said this about the two main candidates, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. They didn't really vote for, many people didn't vote for who they wanted. They voted against the one they didn't want. And it was going around a lot. It's the lesser of two evils. Which one is the lesser of two evils? Next is another adjective, to be drenched. To be drenched, if something is drenched, it's very, very, very wet. Drenched is like the superlative of wet. It's the most wet you can be. And I said, I use an umbrella so I don't arrive at my student's house completely drenched, right? So to block some of the rain. Next, I talked about a couple different proverbs. And a proverb is something in many languages. All languages have proverbs. It's just an old common saying that often gives a lesson, right? So the early bird gets the worm, for example. That's an old proverb, meaning get up early and be productive so you catch what you want to catch. So it's an old expression with a lesson, a proverb. Next, I said, let that sink in. Towards the end, after I said the proverb I also said was, I was once sad when I had no shoes until I met the man who had no feet. And then I said, let that sink in a bit. Meaning, think about it and absorb it and really try to understand it. Take a minute and try to understand that. Let it sink in. To sink is to go inside something, like to go underwater, to sink. So let it sink in your brain. Next, I said, let's be honest. Let's be honest. This is kind of like a fluency builder. Learn expressions like this to really become more fluent. But we say, let's be honest. When you're giving your sincere opinion about something, maybe it's not easy to hear, but it's true. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Next, MMA, mixed martial arts. That's the sport that I like. Kickboxing, wrestling, fighting, boxing, jiu-jitsu. That sport that's usually in the UFC, you might know it, or in a cage. That's called mixed martial arts, MMA. A mix of martial arts like taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, judo. It's a mix of them. And finally, this isn't necessarily a language lesson, but a life lesson. And it's the thing that gets me that helps me continue to move forward and have a positive attitude. And I just have it in my mind and in my head that the harder the struggle is now, the better the success will feel in the future. And that's something that I've learned with experience of struggling and fighting, struggling, studying hard, working hard. And then when you finally succeed, it feels wonderful. So these are the expressions and the words to get and take away from this week's podcast. Are any of them new for you? Do you find any useful already? Write your favorite one or the one you like the best in the comments below. I encourage you, visit Sweet Academy and check out all of our episodes. Sweet Academy on YouTube. I have lessons. I put chunks of these podcasts on my YouTube channel so you can go away and learn and take something away with you. There's just a lot of cool stuff. And consider becoming a participating member. I'm really trying to get participating members. You get access to all of our courses for you to learn, for you to work with. I will check your assignments and give you feedback on the YouTube channel, and we can work together. You'll be a member of a private Facebook group only for participating members, and you get discounts on one-on-one classes. It's a win-win. But check that out, sweetacademy.com. That's all for me. My time is up. Thank you for listening. Remember, do something nice for somebody before they can do it for you. Pay it forward. Be good or be good at it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.